Take a look at this. A tiny island with almost no natural resources became richer than one of history's greatest empires. Singapore is smaller than many major cities, yet today it ranks among the wealthiest nations on Earth. In this video, we'll uncover the decisions, investments, and strategies that helped Singapore surpass Britain in income per person and become a global economic powerhouse. Number 10. Changi Airport expansion. Most countries build airports to connect people. Singapore built an airport to connect the world. When Changi Airport opened in 1981, it was part of a much larger vision. Singapore's leaders understood that geography alone would not guarantee success. The country needed world-class infrastructure capable of attracting airlines, tourists, investors, and businesses from every corner of the globe. Over the decades, Changi evolved into one of the most respected airports on Earth. Travelers consistently rank it among the world's best, not just because of its facilities, but because of its efficiency. That efficiency matters. Every flight arriving in Singapore brings potential investment, trade opportunities, business partnerships, and economic activity. Millions of passengers pass through Changi every year, helping connect Singapore to hundreds of cities worldwide. For a nation dependent on global commerce, these connections became a competitive advantage. But while airports connected Singapore to the world, another challenge existed at home. Where would people live? Number 9. Housing Development Board success. Many growing economies face a difficult problem. As cities expand, housing becomes expensive, overcrowded, and difficult to access. Singapore chose a different path. Shortly after independence, the government launched an ambitious public housing program through the Housing Development Board, commonly known as HDB. The goal was simple but revolutionary: give citizens access to affordable, quality housing. The results were extraordinary. Today, more than 4 out of every 5 Singaporeans live in HDB communities. These developments helped create social stability, encouraged home ownership, and reduced many of the housing challenges seen elsewhere around the world. Imagine trying to build a strong economy while millions struggle to find affordable places to live. Singapore understood that economic growth and quality of life must develop together. But homes alone do not create wealth. The next investment would prove even more important. Number 8. Education and skills revolution. Natural resources can run out. Talent can grow forever. Singapore's leaders recognized this reality early. Without large reserves of oil, gas, or minerals, the country had only one major resource it could fully control: its people. So Singapore invested heavily in education. Schools were modernized. Universities expanded. Technical training programs multiplied. Students were encouraged to master science, engineering, technology, and mathematics. This focus created a workforce capable of competing with the best in the world. As industries evolved, Singapore adapted its education system to meet changing economic demands. The strategy worked. Companies looking for skilled workers increasingly saw Singapore as an attractive destination. And soon those companies began bringing something else: money. Number 7. Becoming Asia's financial hub. What happens when global investors need a safe place to do business? Increasingly, they chose Singapore. By maintaining strong institutions, transparent regulations, and a reputation for stability, Singapore positioned itself as one of the most trusted financial centers in Asia. Banks arrived, investment firms followed, multinational corporations established regional headquarters. The flow of capital accelerated year after year. Today, Singapore stands among the world's leading financial hubs, competing with cities far larger than itself. But even as money poured in, Singapore continued looking ahead, because the future was becoming digital. Number 6. Smart Nation Initiative. By the early 2010s, Singapore had already achieved what many nations could only dream of. It had a thriving economy, a world-class port, a respected financial sector. Yet the government believed the next economic revolution would be driven by technology. So instead of waiting for change, Singapore decided to lead it. The Smart Nation Initiative was launched to integrate technology into nearly every aspect of daily life. Government services became increasingly digital. Transportation systems became smarter. Healthcare adopted new technologies. Businesses embraced automation and innovation. The goal wasn't simply to use more technology. The goal was to make the entire country more efficient. Think about that for a moment. While some nations were still trying to digitize basic services, Singapore was building systems designed for the future. But technology alone wasn't enough. Singapore possessed another advantage that many countries would envy: its location. Number 5. Port of Singapore expansion. Some countries are blessed with oil. Others have vast land and natural resources. Singapore had something different: a strategic location at one of the busiest maritime crossroads on Earth. Ships traveling between Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and beyond pass through nearby waters every day. Singapore saw opportunity where others saw geography. The country invested heavily in port infrastructure, turning itself into one of the world's most important shipping centers. Millions of containers move through Singapore every year. Products from every corner of the globe pass through its terminals. Today, the massive Tuas Mega Port project represents the next chapter in that story. When completed, it will become one of the most advanced ports on Earth. But having a great port means little if businesses don't want to operate there. Fortunately for Singapore, companies couldn't stay away. Number 4. Attracting global companies. Why would a multinational corporation choose a small island nation over much larger countries? The answer comes down to confidence. Businesses want stability. They want predictable regulations. They want efficient government services. And they want an environment where long-term investments are protected. Singapore delivered all of those things. Over the years, thousands of international corporations established offices, regional headquarters, and major operations there. Some of the world's biggest companies chose Singapore as their gateway to Asia. These investments created jobs. They brought knowledge. They attracted more businesses. And they reinforced Singapore's reputation as one of the easiest places in the world to do business. Yet perhaps the most remarkable achievement is what Singapore accomplished despite having so many limitations. Number 3. Limited land, unlimited ambition. Imagine trying to build one of the world's richest countries with almost no natural resources, no massive oil fields, no huge domestic market, no vast territory. That was Singapore's reality. Many experts believed these limitations would prevent the country from competing with larger nations. Instead, Singapore used those challenges as motivation. The country reclaimed land from the sea. It maximized every square kilometer. It focused on efficiency, innovation, and long-term planning. Where others saw obstacles, Singapore saw opportunities. This mindset became one of the defining characteristics of its success. And much of that mindset can be traced back to a single individual. Number 2. Lee Kuan Yew's economic transformation. Few leaders have had a greater impact on their nation's future than Lee Kuan Yew. When Singapore became independent in 1965, the situation looked uncertain. Many doubted whether the country could survive on its own. Resources were limited. The future was unclear. Yet Lee Kuan Yew and his team developed a long-term vision focused on economic growth, industrialization, education, trade, and anti-corruption reforms. They understood that success would not happen overnight. Every major decision was designed to strengthen Singapore's competitiveness for decades to come. The government emphasized meritocracy, efficiency, and strategic planning. Over time, those policies transformed Singapore from a developing nation into one of the world's wealthiest economies. But even great leadership would not have been enough without one final ingredient: the factor that sits at the heart of Singapore's entire success story. Number 1. Singapore's global trade strategy. If there is one reason Singapore became richer than Britain on a per-person basis, this is it: trade. From the very beginning, Singapore understood a simple truth. The country could not rely on natural resources. It could not rely on a massive population. It could not rely on a large domestic market. Instead, it chose to become indispensable to the global economy. Ports were expanded. Airports were upgraded. Financial services were strengthened. Logistics networks were modernized. Business regulations were streamlined. Every major policy supported one goal: becoming a global gateway for commerce. And it worked. Today, companies from around the world depend on Singapore's infrastructure, efficiency, and connectivity. The country has become one of the most important trade hubs on Earth. What makes this achievement even more remarkable is its scale. Singapore is smaller than many major cities, yet its economic influence extends across continents. Its GDP per capita now exceeds that of Britain, proving that size alone does not determine success. Vision matters. Leadership matters. Infrastructure matters. But above all, Singapore's story shows the power of long-term thinking. A tiny island with limited resources transformed itself into one of the richest nations on Earth. Not through luck, not through natural wealth, but through decades of strategic planning and relentless execution. Singapore's rise remains one of the greatest economic success stories ever told. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more stories about global development, economic transformation, and the mega projects shaping our world. What do you think was the biggest factor behind Singapore's success? Leadership, education, trade? Let us know in the comments below.